Welcome to Copilot Podcasts. That elegant cane your grandfather uses to walk? In the Marvel Universe, it might just vaporize you on the spot. Today, we're diving into the fascinating world of villainous canes, where fashion meets fatal, and walking sticks pack more punch than a super soldier serum.
Oh, you're not kidding. And when we talk about deadly canes in Marvel, there's no better place to start than with Wilson Fisk's Disintegrator cane.
The Kingpin's signature accessory, right? Tell me more about this not-so-innocent walking stick.
Well, according to Marvel Records, this diamond-studded walking stick actually contains a concealed laser beam weapon that can fire a short pulse of 300 watts, enough energy to vaporize a handgun in a single blast.
Wait, 300 watts? That's insane power in something that looks so harmless.
And that's exactly the point. There's this fascinating historical parallel here. In the Victorian era, sword canes became incredibly popular among gentlemen who wanted to remain armed while maintaining social propriety.
So this isn't just a comic book thing, there's actual historical precedent for hiding weapons in walking sticks?
Absolutely. By the early 1700s in Europe, as firearms became more common, gentlemen needed a more discreet way to protect themselves. The sword cane was the perfect solution, elegant, practical, and deadly when needed.
That's fascinating. So Marvel's writers were actually drawing on real historical traditions when they created these weapons.
Exactly. And just like those Victorian gentlemen, Marvel villains often use their canes as symbols of status and authority. It's not just about the weapon, it's about the statement it makes.
You know what's interesting? When you think about it, there's also this whole connection to pimp canes in pop culture, another symbol of power and status.
Right. And Kingpin's cane definitely plays into that imagery. It's diamond-studded, incredibly ornate. It's meant to be seen, to intimidate, even before its deadly capabilities are revealed.
So it's like a double threat, psychological warfare and actual warfare all in one package.
And that's what makes these weapons so effective in storytelling. They play with our expectations. We see a cane, we think of weakness or disability.
But instead, we get a deadly surprise.
Exactly. And in different versions of Marvel stories, these canes have evolved. In the 1990s cartoons, for example, Kingpin's cane was modified to include an electroshock weapon.
Oh really? How did that work?
It had a direct contact electroshock weapon at its base. He actually used it in a pretty memorable duel with Daredevil.
That's wild. And I imagine these weapons have only gotten more sophisticated in modern comics.
Oh, absolutely. In Marvel Contest of Champions, they even gave Kingpin's cane the ability to emit toxic gas made from black ISO 8, capable of weakening anyone infected by it.
It's interesting how they keep updating these weapons to keep them relevant and threatening.
Well, think about it. In real-world martial arts, the cane is actually considered one of the most effective self-defense weapons you can legally carry everywhere.
Really? I had no idea.
Yes, according to martial arts experts, a good heavy-duty cane offers greater standoff range and potential stopping power than any street weapon short of a gun.
That's pretty incredible. So Marvel's writers aren't just making this stuff up, they're building on real combat potential.
Exactly. And what's particularly clever is how they've taken this real-world foundation and enhanced it with sci-fi elements like laser beams and toxic gas.
Let's talk about the psychological aspect for a moment. Why do you think these weapon canes are so effective as storytelling devices?
Well, it plays into our fear of the hidden threat. When a villain pulls out a gun, you know what you're dealing with. But a cane, it subverts expectations.
And I suppose it adds to the villain's character too, showing them as someone who's always thinking ahead, always prepared.
Precisely. It's about intelligence as much as it is about power. These aren't just brutes, they're strategists who understand the value of deception.
You know what's fascinating? The way these weapons have evolved over time in the comics. They seem to reflect each era's technology and fears.
That's a great observation. In the early comics, it was more about physical weapons, hidden blades and such. Now we're seeing nanotech, energy weapons, even psychological warfare elements.
It's like the cane itself becomes a mirror of society's advancing technology.
And its anxieties. The idea that something so seemingly harmless could be so deadly, that really resonates in our modern world.
Speaking of modern interpretations, how have recent Marvel adaptations handled these weapon canes?
They've actually been pretty clever about it. They tend to keep the basic concept, the cane as both weapon and status symbol, but update the technology to match current capabilities.
And I imagine that helps keep these older characters relevant for new audiences?
Exactly. It's about finding that balance between honoring the classic elements while making them feel fresh and threatening for modern viewers.
You mentioned martial arts earlier. How do real-world cane fighting techniques compare to what we see in Marvel?
Well, real cane fighting is actually quite sophisticated. There are entire systems dedicated to it, like the American cane system, which incorporates elements from various martial arts.
That's fascinating. So there's legitimate combat theory behind these weapons.
Absolutely. The basic principles of leverage, distance, and surprise that we see in Marvel's cane weapons are actually grounded in real combat techniques.
It's amazing how much depth there is to something that most people would just see as a simple walking aid.
And that's exactly what makes it such a perfect weapon for Marvel villains. It's hiding in plain sight, just like those Victorian sword canes we talked about earlier.
Do you think we'll see more variations of these weapon canes in future Marvel stories?
I think it's almost guaranteed. As technology advances, both in our world and in the Marvel universe, the potential for what could be hidden in a cane becomes even more intriguing.
Maybe we'll see some quantum technology or AI integrated into these weapons next.
Wouldn't surprise me at all. The cane weapon has always evolved with technology, from simple sword canes to laser disintegrators. It's part of what makes them such enduring weapons in comics.
And I suppose that adaptability is key to their longevity as storytelling devices.
Exactly. They can be updated and modified to stay relevant while still maintaining that core element of hidden threat that makes them so compelling.
Let's talk about some of the more unique variations we've seen in Marvel. Any particular favorites?
Well, the Contest of Champions version of Kingpin's cane is particularly interesting, with its black ISO 8 gem that powers both the laser beams and the toxic gas capability.
That's quite an upgrade from the original disintegrator version.
And it shows how these weapons can evolve while still maintaining their core identity as symbols of power and authority.
It's really interesting how Marvel has managed to keep these weapons relevant for so long.
I think it speaks to the enduring appeal of the concept, the idea that power can be hidden in plain sight, that appearances can be deceiving.
And that's really what makes these weapons so fascinating, isn't it? The contrast between what they appear to be and what they actually are.
Exactly. It's that duality that makes them such perfect tools for villains. They're simultaneously symbols of sophistication and instruments of destruction.
And I suppose that's what makes them so memorable as well.
Absolutely. They're not just weapons, they're extensions of the characters who wield them, telling us something about their nature and their approach to power.
Well, I think that brings us to a perfect closing point. Next time you see someone with a cane in a Marvel story,
maybe don't assume it's just for walking. Thanks for joining us on Copilot Podcasts, where we've learned that sometimes the most dangerous weapons are the ones hiding in plain sight.